Good morning. I'm Michelle Miller, and we're in the CBS This Morning Toyota Green Room to discuss one of the most famous films to never be released. That is until now. Amazing Grace captures Aretha Franklin recording her legendary gospel album of the same name over the course of 2 days in 1972. Producer Alan Elliott, along with Franklin's niece Sabrina Owens and nephew Von Franklin, are here to talk about the documentary that took 46 years to make it to the big screen. Welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
Oh my goodness. Why did it take this long? We're talking Aretha Franklin here.
That's how long it took.
Come on, the backstory behind it.
We don't have enough time for the backstory. But
Yes, we do.
They messed up the technical aspects of it 46 years ago, and that was a funky way to elongate everyone's life.
It was a synchronicity problem,
Yes.
really. You know, the clapper,
Yeah.
everyone is it's so famous in the movie making business. Sidney Pollack, who had sort of brought these features together and wanted to make this. Talk about why Aretha, Miss Franklin, wanted to film it in South Central Los Angeles in the venue that she did.
Alan, do you know?
Okay. Well, Reverend James Cleveland had his choir and his church in Los Angeles, and he was the most famous figure in modern gospel at the time. And Aretha was doing an episode of Room 222.
I remember that show.
Okay, and so they came out to Los Angeles. They brought the band from Atlantic Records, and it's January. So everybody wanted to go to Los Angeles from New York.
Cold, yeah.
It's so cold in New York. So they came to Los Angeles they thought they'd do rehearsals, they would do the show, Room 222, and then they would go and film the movie. And that's where the adventure starts to fall down.
So this adventure, Sabrina, take us through how watching what has now come to screen, take us through the process of what we see.
So basically, I didn't become involved in this until really after my aunt passed. But the first I heard of the film was about 3 years ago when I get a call from Alan, and he actually sends me a link to the film, and I look at it, and I absolutely love it. And so we didn't know at that point when it would make it to the screen or not. And then after my aunt passed, Alan came to Detroit about 4 or 6 weeks later and previewed it for my family and friends, and everybody loved it.
Let's be really clear here. Ms. Franklin really didn't want this to make it to the big screen. Why? Why wouldn't she want this to happen?
We really don't know the details behind all of that, but I look at it as timing. Maybe the time wasn't right back then, but now we felt that as a family, along with Alan, that time was right now. So I think it's all around timing.
Set the stage for us. Here she is.
Well, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Okay? This is my belief. So you have to come up with these theories. First of all, I was 7 years old when they made the movie, so we're dealing with the 7-year-old's intellect at this point, still. And inside that, she's the most famous woman in the Warner Music Group, right? She has 13 #1 records in a row. And the film company drops the ball. And she wanted to be a movie star. And this is her apex. She's made Amazing Grace, which is her best-selling album. And the record company gets everything together, but the film company does not. And I'm sure for someone as competitive and as as dedicated as Aretha was, I know her my mentor was her producer, Jerry Wexler, and he would say to me, the record company, we did our job. The film company didn't. And I can only imagine what that is on a long level of a missed opportunity for her that she would have been mad about. And then trying to figure out the mythos that goes on, because there's a lot of CYA.
What would that be?
Covering your...
Okay, we got it.
So in a corporate world, why didn't the movie get made? Well, there was a problem. Well, whose fault was it? Well, it was this one's fault. No, it was that one's fault. No, and now you're dealing with Aretha Franklin, Sidney Pollack, Warner Brothers Films, Warner Brothers Records, Atlantic Records. There's a lot of CYA that has to go into that. And in that, it becomes this, what are you going to say? Why didn't things happen? Because they didn't do this. If they had done that, there would have been a movie.
There would have been a movie.
Yeah.
I want you to take, so you were at a big screening last night.
Yes.
One of my friends was there. He loved it.
I saw your friend.
You saw my
Yeah, I did.
You did not. But this was really just her
Yes.
in the church singing her heart out.
And that was the special part about it. That it was just her. There was no flash, no bang, no electronic equipment. It was just my aunt standing there doing what she does best, singing gospel, and it just touched her soul. She's singing, sweat's pouring down her face. She's putting her whole heart and soul into this. It was very authentic, very pure. You saw a side of her that you don't normally see on the regular stage. There was a shyness about her at some points, and then there was a confidence about her at other points, like when she was sashaying down the aisle. You see the confidence just reeking from her. And then when she gets on the stage, there's a deference, probably like you see with a lot of people in a church atmosphere. But she was just singing, and it was just very touching, very inspiring. Yeah.
She was at home.
She was.
I think
very
she was
much
at home and in her element because she grew up in the church.
Yes.
So when she was up on stage and singing in front of the audience, she had the gospel music going behind her. Just like Sabrina said, you saw a shyness, but yet you saw a certain level of confidence.
Right.
And then when our grandfather was there, when Reverend C.L. Franklin walked in, I think that just was
The relationship that they had was very special. It was very
Exactly,
evident on
yes.
Camera.
Yes, it
you know,
was.
it was like a mutual admiration society. She admired her dad. He loved her, as he said. My daughter, how did he put it? She was just a stone singer,
Yes.
as he put it.
And I think you
Yeah.
saw her revert back to a certain level of her childhood.
Yeah.
Because when he walked in, she saw him. I think she humbled herself even more so then, because Father's in the room. You know, my dad is someone I admire and look up
Right.
to, and the one that's been my backbone throughout my entire career. He's in the room now.
Yes.
So I think that was a great moment in the movie.
This wasn't a huge venue.
No.
This,
it wasn't.
It was a small church.
I think about Miss Franklin. I had the pleasure of meeting her a few times, but I presented her. It was in Times Square, and going backstage, the woman who was very sweet, shy, everyone was like, okay, well, you're dealing with Miss Franklin. I went in there and she was lovely to
Yes.
me.
Yes.
She took me by the shoulder and she led me onto stage and said, go ahead on out there now. And I remember she had her little purse.
That
And she-
everywhere with
Everywhere.
her.
was that purse on stage with her at the
no.
church? Way back then?
It was somewhere in the area.
I'm sure it was probably under the podium.
Under the podium, yeah,
But
I
yeah,
agree.
that you can tell when her performance was over by whether that purse left the stage or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I would imagine you said that connect.
Yes.
You've seen this film more than once.
Yes, I have.
And we were talking about how you pick up something new each time.
Right.
What was your pickup on this?
I saw my Aunt Carolyn last night for the
you miss
first
that
time. I don't know. I should have seen it the very first time, but this is about my fourth or fifth time. And I'm looking, and I was like, oh my God, there's my Aunt Carolyn.
Jumping up and down.
Yes.
I told you.
And then I saw her more than once. Why didn't I see that
Yeah.
before? Yeah.
What about you, Vaughn?
There was nothing new. I guess I miss her. And whenever I see her on screen, I'm just focused on her because it brings back a lot of memories. So the things going on around her, that wasn't what I was focused on. I'm sure if I go back and watch it later on, then I'll see the things that Sabrina saw. But it's just me seeing her up on stage.
Well, I
and
think
thinking about the things.
initially you are focused on her. The very first, maybe the first, second, third time.
Right, exactly.
The focus was on her, her music, how it made me feel. And then after that, I started seeing other things around her. I started noticing just the fashions and, the lady in the flop hat and things like that. But it takes a few times to get past the focus of her. Yeah.
So it has been several months since your aunt passed away.
Yes.
Beautiful ceremony. What an amazing tribute to her the memorial service was. What would she say? What do you think she would say about this now?
I think she would be very excited and very proud of that moment because Detroit and the world showed up and showed out. And it was done at such a high level, and we had the help of, as we call the Aretha's Angels, that helped to execute that whole program. And I think because it was done so well and everything for her had to be done at the highest levels, that I think she would have been very pleased.
And look who's joined us, Terrell Whitley, one of the other producers on board. So glad of you to join us.
Absolutely.
We were
glad to be here.
I didn't see you come in.
I did.
It's magic. It's magic. But I would ask you as well, what do you think that Ms. Franklin would say about what you have been able to produce here after 46 years of pushing aside, waiting, maybe it's coming, no, I don't want it? What would she say now? You're a producer.
Wow, that's a big question. I think, and of course, we're here with the Franklin family, and so I really have to get my answer kind of pulled from what I've gathered from our conversations of what we've discussed. And I would believe that Ms. Franklin would appreciate our approach and the fact that we have taken the highest level of respect in honoring her legacy, that we're working directly with Vaughn and with Sabrina in a way to ensure that the project goes forward and it highlights the great things about her legacy.
Is there something to be said about it coming out now? This is of all amazing grace.
Yeah. Well, there is something to be said. I mean, right now we're in interesting times, and our world, you know, as much as Aretha, I was saying this to someone this morning, as much as Aretha was a great performer, a great singer, she's also an activist. And her message and the way that she carried out her message and how she used her gift was to help change the world and to bring people together. And I think we've taken that approach. We're talking to Flint and the water crisis. We're looking at what's happening in California with the wildfires. We're talking about voter suppression. So we're trying to be conscious and appropriate to what her calling was as an artist, as a singer, as the Queen of Soul, but then also as an activist. And I think a lot of that comes from our conversations with the Franklin family.
Because she in the 1960s and 70s not only initiated Get Out the Vote campaigns, but helped to fund many other civil rights moves along the way.
Now, here's what's interesting. 46 years later, we're still having a lot of the same conversations.
Yes.
And so she's as relevant today as she was then.
Yes, she is. This has a limited release this year. Talk to us, if you will, about when it comes out here in New York and Los Angeles.
We wanted to do a mic drop, which was nobody. We huddled with each other after we showed the movie 6 weeks ago. How do we sort of go and take over the Oscars? How do we go and take award season? How do we have the biggest bang on this with nobody knowing about it? Because we didn't want to have, we own the movie. This is our movie. And it's important for us because last night Reverend Barber came and did a speech afterwards. Reverend Al Sharpton came and did the invocation before. For us to help out with the Clean Water for Flint campaign, for us to work with Reverend Barber on the Poor People's campaign, are really important legacy things that we feel is true to Aretha. But to your point of where is it going to be, when is it going to be, so we didn't tell anybody that we qualified for the Oscars. We had to do that by October 1st. We made that deadline by 26 minutes. We did it without a publicist. We did it pretty much without a lawyer. We didn't tell anybody we were doing it except the families here. And we became a family in that sort of way. And the idea was, of course, you have to do Oscar qualifying, so you have to do a week run in Los Angeles, which is November 20th through the 27th, and in New York, the 7th through the 14th of December at Film Forum. And
this is really a vehicle for her causes.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that should be said. It is really a vehicle for her causes.
Yeah.
And what would we tell, what is she telling us today?
Don't mess it up.
I know she is. I know she is. We are going to wrap it up. We wish you the best of luck. Our sympathy still with you and the family and all that really, cared for this amazing, amazing, amazing grace that she was to all of us. I want to say thank you, Alan Elliott. I want to say thank you, Terrell Whitley. I want to say thank you, Sabrina Owens and Vaughn Franklin, for being here with us and for sharing this all on Facebook.
Thank you.
Thank you.